when I finished reading the study for the first time, I was like, every woman needs to be aware of this. It has definitely helped me to see my way of defining money, behaving around money, so that I feel now really empowered to make those decisions because they don't feel random.
This helped me to not fall back as often in the normal gender patterns that I grew up with, and that I also myself try to get rid of.
Welcome to the Lilith Podcast. I am Caroline Myriel, your host, and invite you to join me to explore what sovereignty means for us as modern women, just like you and me. The Lilith myth is a story of a woman who stepped into her sovereignty and freedom. In the first season of the Lilith Podcast, I have in-depth conversations with business anthropologist Lilith about the money truth of women. You will learn a lot about yourself, about your conscious and unconscious money behaviors, and hopefully it'll be worthwhile listening for you. This is the last episode in the first season where Lilith and I have explored the topic of sovereignty for us as modern women. And because it is so important and basically the foundation of everything else we can talk about sovereignty, we talked about money truth. And Lilith, how was that journey for you up until now?
I loved it, Caroline, really, because we conducted this study within Accenture Song, and it's a couple of years ago already. And it's also like a good reminder on a daily basis that we have a lot of homework to do as women. So it is a really weird thing to talk about our own work and being affected by it at the same time.
Well, you're affected because when we started off, you shared your Lilith moments with us. And we're not too far away from the next International Women's Day, just a couple of months. So I'm sure, companies are already planning their communication. Women's groups are thinking about what can we do. And I think if I did one thing, I would probably do a project around the money truth of women, and we might talk about it and see what we come up with. But I think in a nutshell, your Lilith moment was that the numbers just didn't change very fast, right?
Yeah.
So how do you feel now about those numbers, about pension gaps, gender pay gap, and all the gaps that we as women experience?
I'm feeling twofold about that. So on the one hand, I'm thinking, oh my God, we can do so much by reflecting ourselves, our life context, becoming aware, and slowly and patiently do something about that, which is great, really. On the other hand, I'm experiencing myself, even though I'm so knowledgeable, or I think that I'm quite knowledgeable about those things, I fall back into all those old patterns and need reminders that I have to rethink all those structural inequalities. But I would also be curious, what is your before and after reflection? It's you have been spending quite some time with our study now, Caroline. Tell me.
Yes, I have. So when I look back, I have read the study because we talked, we reconnected through a coaching client of mine. And it was really great, first of all, to get in touch with you again, because I always appreciated your work and I was always curious. And whenever we talked over coffee, you had so amazing insights in all kinds of topics. And, there will be more to come in other episodes about all those things. I knew that if you conducted a study on the money truth of women, I wanted to read it because I wanted to understand what you found, because you're not somebody who stays at the superficial level. You're going deep, and I'm not interested in one size fit all approaches. And I want to always make my own conclusions, let's say. So you sent me that study and I read it, and interestingly, so my brain was like, whoa, that's so much information. I have no idea how to digest that and how to even apply that to my life. But at the same time, I was like stunned. I was like, okay, this is probably how I'm working too. And this is probably what I'm thinking too. But because you asked so many women and then you aggregated the results, I could find myself in a lot of those sentences that you wrote in the study again. But it became very obvious, okay, I need to talk with you about it in order to be able to actually make sense for me and my life and apply your findings, what that looks like. I mean, when we did the UN Women Calculator, and that's not even part of your study, but when we did it together, like it really sunk in and I had so much to think about. And that was happening in every episode. And when I finished reading the study for the first time, I was like, every woman needs to be aware of this. And I always wanted to do a Lilith podcast, and it finally had never anything to do with you in the first place, because Lilith in myth is that woman who steps into her sovereignty. And then you walk by, send me that study, and yeah, there we go. We talk about it. So that was the before. And it has been such a journey over the last couple of months inside myself, digging deeper as my life context changed. And I am still probably halfway through digesting and understanding how much that means. But it has definitely helped me to see my way of defining money, behaving around money. It has shaped it and refined it so that I feel now really empowered to make those decisions because they don't feel random. And I have much quicker clarity about, okay, what do I do next? So thank you for that, because it was really eye-opening. So that was just in a nutshell what happened to me.
Wow. I'm really thrilled, and thank you for sharing that. Really, our collaboration on this brought the insights much more to life, and I think my hope would be to spread the word now through this podcast to as many women as possible. What I found super interesting is, yes, we created this theory out of the 3 needs through the study results and the data, but I could observe our conversations around our life context by always allocating this or that situation in, hey, yeah, here it's clear you want to build your self-identity here, and here it's clear that you maybe should prioritize securing your survival a little bit, or here you are investing a little bit too much into social relations, take care of yourself, or you're securing survival. So we adapted over the couple of past months like this theory and brought it to life, and also included it into our language. And this helped me to not fall back as often in the normal gender patterns that I grew up with, and that I also myself try to get rid of.
Yeah, I think because when we started creating that workbook, and you can download it on lilithpodcast.com or in the show notes below, I think that was really so helpful because I could see the things, talking is great, but I needed to see how do I allocate actually those 3 needs. And to my surprise, I'm investing so much in social relations and I love it. But then there is no balance, I'm kind of like getting out of alignment. But, it's a bit like if you drive with a car and has its wheels out of alignment, you don't notice it in the first maybe 2,000 kilometers. And at some point, you're going to get into trouble. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, okay, I've now understood that I need to align those wheels or those needs so that the car or my life runs more smoothly beyond those 2,000 kilometers. Because I want to go really far. That's always my ambition, and also optimizing. And I think this pie with those 3 needs that is in the workbook, I look at it, I stare at it literally from time to time, because with every decision I'm making, I can find myself in that, and then I can course correct very quickly without letting it slip like for 2,000 kilometers. And that kind of like makes me really happy because I feel more in control. I feel more empowered. And it's also great to have you as a sparring partner. And thanks for sharing all the examples from your life. Also, when you shared that you had 13 years of unpaid care work, And I found it really interesting to also see, okay, for me as a woman without kids, and for you as a woman with a kid and an elderly father to take care of, how different our realities are. But still, in the core, we can boil it down to those three needs that are visualized in the workbook.
Yeah, absolutely. It really doesn't matter what your life context looks like, right? That has been like a huge insight for me as well, because obviously I was thinking about, okay, what do we do now with this? But the beauty about us experiencing that theory and having conversations about that was really it is possible as women to have complete different life context and find something where we can find our context in and make sense out of that without having to judge anybody, right? It is really beyond any gender roles. It is beyond life context. It is beyond judgment. And I think this is the important part here, that every life context is okay, and this is not about judgment, or this is not about, oh my god, I've never taken care about my financial context here. It is really about becoming aware and getting started with this thinking concept, and then having to look at it and make little tiny decisions, maybe that are more balanced as in the past.
I definitely can see that this theory that you're talking about is no longer a theory, because it's in the practical everyday life. I can see it again. It's no longer a concept. When I read the study first, it felt like a concept, without me having really experienced it. But that's what I'm inviting everybody, like, just don't look at that pie and think about those three needs. Really find how they apply to you in your life. And it's just like a really great blueprint in the workbook to look at. And whenever the life context changes, and I can tell you, you can see it from the background in every episode, I'm in a different living context because I travel a lot. I can tell you, as a digital nomad kind of type, doing a podcast with a video is quite a lot of effort. That's my form of unpaid care work. I'm doing this kind of podcast with you for women because I want to make sure that we as women actually support each other in waking up and having a wake up call and seeing, okay, where we actually at with our sovereignty, because if we don't take care of it, nobody else will. So for me, this podcast is my form of unpaid care work. And I'm so happy that you have, despite all the other things you have on your plate with your unpaid care work, that you always made room for having those conversations and preparing, because that's also a lot of preparation going into this podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But if you are driven by your passion, it doesn't feel like a burden, which is
Yeah.
also good. So I would allocate it rather into like a mixture out of building self-identity and unpaid care work, just because this is a topic that drives me. We have so much to share. My hope would be that we inspire as many women and men as possible to maybe apply this new logic to your life context and to your financial decisions without giving financial advice. That was also very
Very
important.
important to us,
Yeah.
because we always just want everybody to win. So, we don't know everybody's life context, but we have created the alignment community, and I'll put the link for that below, because I think the need to talk is so huge. If we just stay in our head, we don't find the answers. So the exchange between us women and seeing it maybe through the similar lens or different lenses, that's when I've always learned the most, like not when you and me agreed on everything, but we also didn't disagree. Let me say that. Just through the discussion and through understanding how you look at it and how I look at it and how that compares or does not compare, I just learned so much.
That's so cool to hear. Hey, shall we also share the study then, the study link with our audience?
Sure.
Because I know that, like, from your feedback, it might sound a little bit academic, but that's okay because now you have like this podcast series to accompany this research report, and maybe you are interested in reading that as well, so we can share the link.
I think so. I mean, I think everyone, every woman, or everybody listening to us should read that study, because also if men understand more the women's reality around how we perceive money, then maybe, things would change also in the personal life, and more discussions would happen about how can we make it a win-win. I think I learned from you so much about how many gaps there are. I think, if anything, this podcast series has shown me, oh my God, so many gaps, so many gaps that are still out there, like gender gap, gender pay gap, pension gap, gender investment gap. I've learned new terms as well. And I wasn't even aware of all those gaps. So definitely, if you're more a scientific person, or you just want to really check on us, what we have been talking about, then the link for the study is under this podcast episode too, for you to read it. And then join the alignment community, ask us your questions there, because Lilith is available, thankfully, taking out that time to answer questions as well.
Yes.
So Lilith, how did the study change when you conducted it? Like, let's do the before and after as well. Like before you did the study, and after, like what happened in your life?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty about being an ethnographer is that you are being reminded in each and every study that we are all just human beings, right? Before I conducted that study, I thought like, yeah, well, I'm okay-ish financial literate, but I knew about the gender pay gap and the pension gap due to my job, obviously. But I wasn't aware how much affected I actually was, right? And after I conducted the study, I took personally different decisions. I started talking about money with my loved ones and with my family. I formed some arguments and I told everybody about the study, saying like, we created here some insights and I want to change that. And it was quite a journey, right? And I spread the word across my friends and social relations and mainly my female friends, right? And then some husbands would come back to me and say like, oh, we are so annoyed that you conducted that study. So when our wives come home, they always want to talk about money now. it was it was rather a joke because after all, everybody is now talking more about money without being ashamed. And I think it changed quite a bit and it normalized everything a little bit, like at least the conversations. Thanks to our podcast now, I think I'm much more into the routine of becoming aware myself on a more regular basis, as I said. So that changed. Another thing that was surprising that I didn't share yet was that those insights did not only resonate with women, they also resonated with a lot of men. So there was this argument saying like, yeah, but this is not only relevant for women, it's relevant for everybody. And that is also the beauty about ethnography, right? Because our goal is to create human insights, no matter what gender you are or what your lived context is. And this gives me a lot of hope to have created something in form of this study and this research report, which we could take as a basis also between the genders to have good conversations and to change things for the better.
Yeah, that reminds me, if you haven't listened to our episode about social peace, I think that's one piece that can go into that. I'll link to it below as well. But I think it's important, because if you have a conversation with your partner, you're a woman, and you want to have a conversation with your male partner, for example, then it's really good to share those kind of insights or the study report if they want to read it black and white, because I think that's kind of like bringing us together. And we were clear that we wanted to have a unifying approach, like it's not women with children and without children. It's also not about men versus women. And I've learned, I think I said that before, I've learned so much from men in my whole life of how to do business and how to do things. But now I'm in a part of my life where I've consciously decided to look more into how do I do that as a woman? How do I step into my sovereignty? How do I not copy the male approach, but how do I actually get in touch with my own innate approach? Like, for example, the win-win approach is very interesting because, and we touched on it very often, that actually it's about win-win. It's not one wins, one loses. And it's very important to me that we step up into sovereignty, but not for the sake of being superior, but kind of like being equal and using the full potential that we all bring to the table.
I have to think about this ABBA song, The Winner Takes It All. We are trying to unsolve that, I guess, even though it's a beautiful song.
It is. But what was even more beautiful is when you shared with me the song of Erykah Badu, and we'll put the link below that too, because I think she just embodies that Lilith energy for me. When I looked at it, it's like, okay, if Lilith would live in modern times, that's what she would look like. That's how she would sing her song. And yeah, if you want, we invite you to listen to it. Again, it's the link below. You can watch it. What does she represent to you and this song? I'm curious.
Like Erykah Badu. I mean, Erykah Badu, for me personally, she's my spirit animal. She was big in the 90s and early through 2000s, and she represents a very sovereign woman, also in music biz, right? Always having had her own opinion, being super inspirational, great lyrics, all kinds of lived life context, and therefore our podcast reminded me on that song, which is why I sent it to you. And maybe if you don't know her, maybe you'll enjoy it as well. Very funny lyrics.
Yeah, very funny lyrics, and just really the embodiment of sovereignty for me. Looking at her, I think, Lilith, we have been on a journey together, and we have decided we'll keep on that journey together, because every time we talked, I mean, you only see the recordings of 30-40 minutes, but Lilith and I can talk for hours about topics relating to our lived context realities beyond the topic of money. We have based it on purpose on your study findings, because I think it's really good. But what do you have in mind? I mean, what other topics would you like to talk about in the future? And then maybe in the comments below, our listeners can tell us what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to know more about our different journeys in professional life, right? Where we ended up where we are right now, what have been like the different life stations. I mean, you are engaging in so many different super interesting topics like business astrology. We have to brainstorm a little bit on what we want to talk about next, and maybe leave a comment what would you wanted to know from us, because we could literally talk about everything.
Yeah, because we're very curious animals. We definitely, even if we don't know, will go and explore, because that's what life is all about. And that's why we've gone on that exploration about what sovereignty and financial sovereignty means to us as women. And we had this great basis. But there's literally so many topics that all somehow are related anyways. And I think we just need to make those connections and those human connections. And again, I want to talk about the alignment community, because this is something that is really close to my heart, because for me, it's very important. And I think safety for us as women becomes a more and more important issue, and that we can express ourselves in a safe space. And that's why I really want to have more and more women join us in the alignment community, so we can talk openly and freely without judgment about financial sovereignty, about blocks that we face in our lives as a woman, that as a beehive of women, we can find solutions or support each other together. And then having you with all your rich experiences as a woman, as a mother, as a caretaker, as an ethnograph. So I think we literally can nail any topic together. What do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So please let us know. Thanks, Caroline, really for unpacking that with me. I was hesitant in the beginning.
Yeah, it took me a while to convince you, but not too much neither. I think you knew that the message needs to be spread.
Yeah.
And I was so happy that you said yes.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Thanks for pushing me and not getting tired and being gentle and pushy at the same time. So I really appreciate that, and I needed that. And I hope you out there, our listeners, also appreciate what we had to say so far.
Yeah, we definitely walk our talk, Lilith. And I think we're ready to just invite more women into our circle and have discussions. So the alignment community will be our place to hang out, have conversations together. Thank you so much for letting me ask you all those questions, comfortable, uncomfortable ones. So we bring our points home. And with that, I'd like to just, wrap up saying thank you to all the listeners. This is not a goodbye. This is just okay, we're getting ready for the next stage with your help, but also with all the inspirations that are happening in the world. We might have a couple of bonuses in terms of interviews with other people that touch on the topics that we have touched on in those last episodes around money truth of women, because there are so many more voices that need to be heard. And we're happy that we could lay the foundation for that. So bye for now. We'll see you in the next season of the Lilith podcast, and stay tuned. Sign up for the Lilith podcast so that we can inform you when the next episode is out. Just look in the show notes below. So bye for now, Lilith, and see you soon.
Bye for now. See you soon. Thank you.